Okay, for more on the Brazilian election, we are now joined by Adriano Laureno. He is a politics and economics analyst from Prospectiva Consultoria. Welcome. Thanks. Sorry for struggling through that. Want to talk about, I'm glad that we're giving this the attention it really deserves, because many expected a runoff in Brazil, but Bolsonaro's strong showing really caught a lot of people off guard. Why do you think Bolsonaro did so unexpectedly well?
Yeah, as you said, the second round was already expected. It's true that recent supports received by Lula's campaign from celebrities, from politicians, more related to center parties and pro-business economists, created an impression that Lula could win in the first round, but the electoral polls were also showing that this was possible. He was increasing in the end, but he was in the margin of error. But in the end, polls were not so wrong about Lula's voting intention, actually, as he ended up with 48 of the valid votes. That was around what polls showed. But they missed it by a margin of approximately 6%, Bolsonaro's voting intention. And those votes came mainly from Ciro Gomes, who was expected to end in third place with around 7% of the votes, but ended in the fourth place. It's good to remember that Ciro Gomes, in the end of the campaign, was attacking a lot the Workers' Party, even if he is an ally of the left. And probably because of that, some of his votes went to Bolsonaro, and then he ended up with only 3%.
Whatever reason, certainly Bolsonaro is seizing this momentum that he has right now. And when I read through the reactions of many Brazilian voters, it is impossible not to think back on what happened in the U.S. during the close 2020 presidential election here. People are saying, how can this happen? And Bolsonaro is saying he has proof of election fraud, but so far not producing anything to back that up. Is there anything at this point that surprises you? And what do you think about those reactions that I've seen and heard from various voters?
Yeah, Bolsonaro has this same rhetoric from Trump about the voting machines that are not reliable, the posters that are not reliable. But of course, that's just a rhetoric, a politician rhetoric, so that he tries to get his allied base more loyal and more aggressive towards his election. So Bolsonaro, even there was some doubt if Bolsonaro would accept the result of the election. And even when he was asked about that yesterday, Bolsonaro said, yeah, I don't know. I will wait for the military to say what they understood about the election. So he never says that he accepts the result or that relies on the result, because he wants to have this narrative of questioning the election if by any means he loses the election.
You know, even if Lula wins, he is going to be in a fight. Bolsonaro's party did very well, including a general turned health minister. And we saw what that did to the COVID, the way they attacked COVID, and also a very controversial environment minister who saw deforestation soar in the Amazon. So let's just go down the road and say Lula wins, just for argument's sake here. What is it going to be like trying to control these very powerful politicians?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that that Pazuello or Salles, which were the two ministers that you mentioned, are the most difficult situation that Lula will need to face, because they will be in the House of Representatives, just two representatives there. I don't think that the axis of power in Brazil in the House of Representatives changed. There are these interest-seeking parties, these very pragmatic politicians that are now allied with Bolsonaro, but they could ally with Lula. I think the most important results in the legislative elections here were in the Senate, where Lula and the Workers' Party saw the PL, which is the party from Bolsonaro, and the right-wing parties win most of the seats that were being in dispute. They won 55% of the seats, these right-wing parties, and they weren't that big before. And in the Senate, I think that we saw a change in the axis of power. Before that, we had this more centrist group, more pro-business parties, the PSDB, PSD, the Social Democrats, these guys who were really, as presidents of the Senate, as Rodrigo Pacheco is today,
right.
they were the ones that they took the lead in the Senate. But now, not that won't happen from January on. Like the right-wing parties will be the main parties there, and Lula will have a very difficult time.
Adriano, we're kind of tight on time here, but like many nations, Brazil is fighting inflation, a rotten economy, and Bolsonaro, which we heard him say in our story leading up to you, I know people want change, but sometimes change isn't good. What can Lula do to counter that kind of argument?
Yeah, I think that the point for Bolsonaro is that he made since 2021 a lot of economic measures trying to improve the economic situation just during the election. So he flexibilized a lot of the spending cap, the fiscal rules, trying to increase government spending now and decrease taxes only for this second semester. So Bolsonaro made a lot of electoral measures trying to bring inflation down, trying to increase consumption, and that was important. That was good for the economy in the short run. The problem is any of the presidents in the next year, they will need to face a very difficult fiscal situation that was led by these electoral measures. They are only short run. They don't have really an economic plan behind them. So any of the presidents will need to make a fiscal adjustment in the first year.
It's going to be an interesting month. Thank you very much, Adriano Laureno. Well, I'm sure we'll get back to you and chat with you again the next 31 days. Thank you.